As was noted, this is the fourth session of the AI series that I've been privileged to be able to present for the EC Council. This will be, as the others are, up on the YouTube channel here probably in the next week or so. For all of you that have attended all of the sessions, thank you so much for attending. It really means a lot. So, real short background on myself. I am Don Warden. I have been in industry for over 30 years and have been working in security for about that long. I got my start in the Navy, and you can read the rest of the things, but basically the world of cybersecurity is my passion, and it's what I do day in and day out. I am also a certified ethical hacker, and I do hold a Master of Science degree in Cybersecurity and Information Assurance. So this is my life. I'm not just some person that goes around and does talks. I'm a practitioner and a hands-on person. So without further ado, I will go ahead and let's get started with today's agenda. So today we're going to cover reactive versus proactive mindset. We're going to look at how AI will allow you to be able to take that to the next level. We're going to look at how AI facilitates anticipatory threat detection, helps you with predictive modeling and simulations, and then we're going to talk about real-world examples of tools and methods, and then we're finally going to end up with some steps and strategic guidance that you guys can use to make the shift to a proactive cybersecurity posture. So traditional cybersecurity has been mostly a reactive model, which means that you're monitoring logs, responding to alerts, looking at indicators compromised, etc. And then you're going to go patch after you've had a breach. Now these steps are still essential, but they happen too late in most environments, and they typically do not prevent damage. And most of the breaches, and a lot of them that I walk into, attackers dwell in environments for weeks or even months. And they do this without being detected, and then they quietly escalate their privileges, or they start doing exfiltration of data. So the current model scales poorly whenever it's up against the AI-driven threats that all the threat actors have now, which are operating at machine speed. So our modern adversaries and threat actors leverage this automation to help probe our defenses. It helps mutate the malware in real time, and they're able to adapt faster than traditional security teams can respond to. So proactive cybersecurity flips this. It doesn't just detect the known threat, it anticipates the emerging threats. So the focus shifts from forecasting attack paths and understanding anomalies and simulating potential breach scenarios before they happen. So this aligns with the capabilities that AI can bring to the table, which are continuous learning, predictive modeling, and adaptive simulation. So it's about turning threat intelligence into forward-looking action. So to begin the shift, open source tools like Waza for threat detection, log analysis, and rule-based correlation, along with Elastic for interactive visualization and anomaly detection, are a really good starting point if you're just jumping into it right now. Those platforms allow you to baseline the normal activity and then start to develop your models on what deviations may look like. And that is a very key component to anticipating early stage attacks. So if you take those two tools and pair them with Sigma rules and MITRE attack mappings to help you develop the proactive detection, that will help evolve your overall AI models. But ultimately, moving from reactive to proactive isn't just about the tools, it's about your cultural and strategic shift. It's going to empower your security teams to focus on threat anticipation and not just the damage control. So AI fundamentally changes the way that we approach cybersecurity. It allows us to transition from reacting to what just happened to forecasting what's likely to happen next. So instead of focusing solely on alerting and incident response, we can leverage AI to predict and prioritize risks before they're even exploited. So machine learning is at the heart of that capability, and it allows you to analyze massive volumes of data from logs and network flows to endpoint behavior models. Machine language models uncover the hidden patterns and correlations that human beings just can't see. It's too much data. These patterns will help security teams flag early indicators of compromise, and even before an attacker executes a payload. Natural language processing, or NLP, extends this intelligence by making sense of unstructured threat data. So things like vulnerability disclosures, forum posts, chatter on underground markets, tools like SPACI, transforms from Hugging Face, large LLM enhanced parsers can sift through this content and extract the actionable intelligence in near real time. You feed that back into your AI model, and that's going to help it get better and learn. But these AI capabilities must be operationalized, and this is where the integration platforms come into play. So the MIST platform enables the structured threat intelligence ingestion and allows you to share it across your teams. Microsoft Sentinel and Splunk, as an example, especially with their machine language toolkits and anomaly detection capabilities, allow for organizations to fuse the internal telemetry that's received with the external threat insights. And that allows you to have real-time risk scoring and alerting. So as an example, instead of waiting for a ransomware variant to trigger an EDR alert, a proactive system can detect behavioral anomalies that are associated with lateral movement or encrypted file access, which is going to provide you with an early warning system well before the payload has been deployed. The true strength of all this use of AI and cybersecurity lies in its ability to operate continuously and contextually. So it's processing signals at scale. It allows you to adapt to new threats, and it feeds actionable outcomes into the broader defense strategies. So by combining ML, NLP, and real-time telemetry, AI empowers ethical hackers and defenders to stay several steps ahead of adversaries, not just detecting threats, but disrupting them before they have a chance to mature within the environments. So making the leap from detection to prediction starts with one critical foundation. You need to understand what normal looks like in your environment. AI cannot predict abnormal behavior unless it first has a reliable baseline of legitimate activity across the endpoints, the networks, and your users. And this begins with data. So you have historical logs, security incidents, routine operations. All those things have to be fed into the machine learning models to train them on acceptable patterns. And once that baseline is established, both supervised and unsupervised learning techniques can be used to flag deviations that could signal the early stages of an attack. And that's going to be way before traditional alerts would ever be triggered. So let's take another example. You have an unsupervised model. It might notice an increase in your SMB traffic between non-peer systems at really odd hours of the day. That might not trigger a standard alert, but it could represent an internal reconnaissance or the setup that a TA could do for lateral movement. So there are a couple of tools that you could start out with to support this. You have open source tools like Zeek and Velociraptor are good to start with. Zeek acts as the network security monitor. It's going to capture very rich metadata about the traffic flows, the protocols, and the anomalies, which is ideal for the behavioral modeling. And then Velociraptor focuses on the endpoint visibility, and it lets you gather the fine-grained forensic and operational data across the whole fleet in near real time. So once you have this telemetry in place, then you can use other platforms like OpenCTI that helps correlate those behavioral signals with known threat intelligence. And that's going to help you bridge the gap between external threat actors and internal observations. This will enable you to have predictive analytics that don't just look at what's happening now, but it'll allow you to forecast what's likely to happen next based upon an attacker's playbook, TTPs, and also the current posture of your network. And over time, the models become smarter and they become more accurate and faster. They're going to allow your security teams to reduce the dwell time and intervene before damage even occurs, rather than responding after a compromise. The ultimate goal is a system that not only alerts you to the existing threats, but actively prioritizes emerging risks based upon the context, the intent, and the behavior, which is going to give defenders a chance to be truly proactive. One of the most powerful applications of AI in ethical hacking is its ability to simulate attacker behavior in real time. And that means continuously, intelligently, and non-disruptively. So this isn't about running quarterly pen tests anymore. This is about building a persistent AI-driven red teaming into the core of the security operations. With AI-powered simulation tools, we can emulate adversary behavior using live data and consistently and constantly adapt to changes in the environment. So tools like MITRE Caldera, Infection Monkey from Checkpoint, and Attack IQ allow for automated, scalable, and realistic attack simulations using known TTPs from frameworks like MITRE ATT&CK. And these platforms go beyond vulnerability scanning. They execute multi-step attack chains, and they analyze how your defenses will respond. As an example, they might simulate an initial access via a phishing payload, followed by a privilege escalation and then a lateral movement. AI models embedded in the tools determine the most likely attack paths, and they uncover policy blind spots, and they adapt to environmental changes in real time. What makes this especially valuable is their ability to operate safely in production without triggering alerts or without interfering with your business operations. You're stress testing your environment using AI-guided adversaries who evolve with your infrastructure. So even better, by integrating them into your CI/CD pipelines, you ensure that every code push and infrastructure change is validated against a live threat model. This shifts security left in the development lifecycle and allows the teams to catch misconfigurations or exploitable logic flaws before they even hit production. So think about it as a continuous red teaming as code. So it's going to blend the offensive testing with automation to evolve alongside the entire tech stack with the attacker's behaviors. In a real world where the attackers are using AI to adapt faster than ever, this kind of intelligent, self-adjusting red teaming becomes a very crucial weapon in staying one step ahead. So autonomous defense goes far beyond just triggering alerts or logging suspicious activities. It's about creating self-healing systems that can detect, decide, and act in real time without requiring human approval for every step. In the reactive models, incident response often involves multiple handoffs between tools and different teams, which introduces delays that attackers will exploit. In contrast, a well-architected autonomous defense can contain and neutralize threats within seconds, which is going to limit the lateral movement and it's going to reduce the dwell time to near zero. So these systems operate through a combination of SOAR platforms and endpoint-based autonomous agents. So example of some tools that you could look at would be Cortex XSOAR, Simplify, IBM Resilient. So they're going to act as a command center. It's going to correlate those inputs from the multiple security tools. It's going to trigger your playbooks, and it's going to do the orchestration that's coordinated to respond across multiple systems. At the endpoint layer, you have tools like SentinelOne, CrowdStrike Falcon, and Microsoft Defender for Endpoint that help you detect the anomalies and automatically take action, such as isolating compromised devices, terminating malicious processes, and even rolling back unauthorized file changes using behavioral snapshots. This level of orchestration enables what we call autonomous containment, and that's where the malicious activity is stopped before it spreads. For instance, if an endpoint begins beaconing to a known C2 server, the system doesn't just send an alert, it blocks the connection. It revokes the tokens and it isolates the host immediately. But the real power really lies in the feedback loop. Each action taken and outcome observed becomes training data for your AI model. So over time, this continuous learning cycle improves your decision accuracy, it reduces your false positives, and it makes the system more resilient. In order to make this scalable, your policies have to be defined in a way that balances autonomy with control. Critical systems that might require approvals, while lower risk environments can operate in full automation mode. Autonomous defense is not just a goal, it is a strategic necessity in an era where the attackers are using automation. AI and multi-vector campaigns, those are really hard to beat without having the same on the other side. So the systems have to be just as fast, just as adaptive, and increasingly self-directed. So the good news in all this is that you don't need to overhaul your entire infrastructure overnight to start adopting a proactive cybersecurity posture. In fact, the most successful transitions that I've observed begin with a targeted use case, and then they make incremental improvements using the tools that you may already have in your stack. So you can start with foundational platforms like Elastic, which I've mentioned before, Mist and Waza. And these tools are open source, they're flexible, and they're also capable of collecting, enriching, and correlating huge amounts of security telemetry data. You can enhance the effectiveness by layering on the machine learning to build a predictive model that helps you identify the patterns of behaviors and surface early warning signals. From there, you can prioritize the use cases that deliver high impact and measurable ROI. An excellent example of this is using probabilistic modeling to identify the systems most likely to be targeted next based upon their exposure, the behavior, and the role within the network. And this allows you to shift from blanket hardening to risk prioritized defense. Another low friction win is to automate continuous firewall validation. So you could use a tool like MITRE Caldera or Attack IQ. And those platforms can emulate attacker behavior in real time and help you detect misconfigurations or outdated rules before an actual breach is able to exploit them. Metrics matter, and you can't manage what you don't measure. So you establish a set of proactive cybersecurity KPIs, such as reduction in dwell time, which is the time an attacker remains undetected, improved MTTR or mean time to respond, and the accuracy of threat forecasts, which is how often your predictive model is right. And lastly, the volume of threats that you neutralize pre-execution. So if you track these metrics, you can create a feedback loop that justifies the investment, it helps guide your tuning, and it builds trust in your AI augmented workflows. So remember that proactive cybersecurity is a cultural shift as much as it is a technical one. Your success depends on enabling your analysts, your architects, and the executives to think about all of this in terms of anticipating and strategy, rather than just response and recovery. So just start small, but stay focused, but you need to start right now. As we close today's session, the one message I want to emphasize is AI doesn't replace ethical hackers. It amplifies ethical hackers. AI will give us the capabilities to move beyond simply reacting to alerts and chasing threats. It will empower us to take initiative, to simulate adversaries, forecast threats, and deploy automated defenses with precision and speed. And this is going to transform the role of an ethical hacker from a responder into a proactive strategist. Someone who designs and hardens systems not just based solely on past attacks, but on what's likely to come next. So we already have some tools here, which I've identified, from open source frameworks to enterprise-grade AI-powered platforms. What's needed now is a mindset shift. Security teams must begin measuring their success, not just in terms of how fast they respond, but in how early they can detect, how accurately they forecast, and how effectively they prevent exploitation altogether. A truly proactive cybersecurity program is within reach, and it starts with choosing the tools that support prediction, simulation, automation, establishing metrics that reward early intervention and continuous improvement, and it cultivates a culture that values forward thinking and threat anticipation over firefighting. As AI continues to evolve, organizations that thrive will be those that learn how to merge human expertise with machine intelligence, strategically, ethically, and continuously. Yeah, absolutely. We're already seeing that happening right now. And the one of the key metrics that we note from the increasing use of AI with threat actors is the shortened window of dwell time that we're observing on incidents. So, for example, we might have had threat actors that might be in an environment for 4 to 6 weeks, and now we're seeing that they're able to get in, do the reconnaissance work within a matter of 1 to 3 days. It's really shortened the life cycle that attackers are using to be able to get into systems to do their work. That's a great question. So I think everyone needs to have some training, and it really depends on the platform that you're going to use for AI. There are various models of AI that you can utilize. Most people are familiar with the commercial models that are out there today, the chat GPTs, et cetera. You can build your own. I would encourage you to utilize your own internal. That way you have complete control of your environment and your data, instead of relying upon external sources like ChatGPT or any of the others that are publicly available. But that being said, you do need to know how to be able to communicate with the artificial intelligence system in a most effective manner possible. So, as an example, I would definitely make sure that you work with whomever is going to be putting together your AI modeling to determine a proper training path for the prompt engineering that's going to allow you to be able to utilize the system in a more effective manner. I think that there are a lot of roles within traditional SOC environments that are going to shift more towards prompt engineering as the adoption of AI starts to take hold within environments. So having that training and understanding how the machine thinks and how to be more effective in asking our questions is extremely important. So I think that as I noted in the presentation, there's a huge cultural shift within security teams in general that needs to take place in order for this to happen. Additionally, there is also a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt with a lot of the executive teams that I encounter about what AI is and what AI isn't, what it can do, how it can be leveraged. And I think that making sure that you're able to provide and demonstrate the value through metrics is the way that you're able to get that kind of synergy that you're looking for between the teams. It kind of goes back to being a salesperson. When a good seller wants to sell something, they're going to find what the pain point is for the individual that they're trying to sell to. So when you're looking at how you're going to help those teams out, you need to figure out what is the pain point that they're trying to do. What is their team trying to accomplish, right? If you look at the executive's role is that they're looking to make sure that their company is profitable. And if you shift it on down to the people that you might interact with within, security teams, they're going to have, let's say, their compensation is going to be modeled around how they can adapt to different KPIs, et cetera. So look for those things that are going to be helpful for those teams that you need to have the data feeds from, and then develop a strategy to be able to demonstrate value to them, and it'll come along really easily. It's one of those things where you're going to have a lot of different types of roles that get transformed. Like I was saying before on the question about the prompt engineering, having agentic AI in the models is going to change the face of how we do security. So it's extremely important. The best AI model is the best one that works for you. like I said, there are a variety of different tools that are out there available to you, and you need to understand what your team is trying to achieve, right? You all have an end goal of protecting the crown jewels of your environment. So you just need to figure out, number one, what is the strategic vision that you want to place, and in order to be able to get the adoption that you want to get. I'm not going to recommend one tool over another tool. Each one of them have their own strengths and weaknesses, just depending on what your use case is. So I think that when you do an analysis of the type of AI tools you want to use, you definitely need to have a use case in mind during that selection process. Yeah, so if you look back through the notes on the slide deck, there are a bunch of different tools that you can utilize. WASOS is one of them. And then you go and have it ingest into an elastic search engine, which is almost infinitely scalable and able to rapidly do correlation data from multiple data streams and unstructured data sets. So that's one example. There are also commercial models that are able to go out and they're agent-based and effectively take a snapshot of your environment and do all of those things that I talked about, where they're trying to figure out different attack profiles and priorities. There are probably 5 of them that come to mind that I don't want to come across as endorsing a specific commercial product, but just look for some that will do proactive threat modeling, and they're non-intrusive in your environment. They literally create a simulated environment in cloud storage, and then you're able to go and literally look at where you have vulnerabilities within different silos and rings that are in your network that you're trying to secure. So right now it's fairly pricey. There has been a supply chain challenge since COVID. Specifically related to GPUs. For teams, I've read that NVIDIA is coming out with a cube this summer that is going to allow for people to take AI out of the cloud and basically put it into their data center at an efficient and effective means. I think the price point is going to be, $5,000 or $6,000. So to have that kind of power for that kind of price is pretty incredible in my mind. But yes, right now the charges for using AI in the cloud is pretty pricey. So in my last webinar, I talked about the importance of making sure that you have frameworks and models that align with the frameworks that you're trying to utilize within your environment. I think there will be a shift on the major frameworks. They really have no choice but to shift. It's such an important and such an emerging technology that is going to be more highly utilized as time goes on. So I think that you'll start to see, probably starting out with some addendums to different security frameworks, and then over time I think you'll start to see it become more mainstreamed into the normal flow of frameworks. But making sure that you have those policies and procedures in place, that's step number one, and that's covered in the last webinar that I gave, if you want to watch. So phishing is by far the number one method that is being utilized with AI, because a threat actor can go and scrape copious amounts of data about people. And in the old days, we used to talk about spear phishing, or looking at focusing solely on executives. With the scale and the speed and accuracy, all of it's spear phishing at this point. So they can make extremely compelling email messages to you based upon all of the things that are out there for most people. So look across your social networks, any other type of publicly available data sets to be able to develop those very personalized phishing emails. And the majority of the matters that I walk into, probably within the last 6 months, I would say that better than 80% of them have been as a result of a very targeted phishing attack. It's a big deal. So it really depends on how you define your model and how aggressive that you want to be. For example, in a lot of the ML that's available within the common XDR tools that are available that I've mentioned, the big three as I call them, it just really depends on how you want to do it. So you can go hyper aggressive to where you're going to do actual network isolation, automated rollback, etc. Feed that back into your loops, and it creates dynamic role sets, etc. Then you could also fall back to just detect. I would during the initial learning phases, I would just keep it on detect instead of hyper aggressive mode. I would always start small, work my way up. Once you have enough data, you've been able to do some audits on those data sets to make sure that you don't have a lot of false positives, or there are certain anomalous activities that might take place. Let's say, for example, if you have large data movements that occur, we see this frequently with accounting departments and other financial services firms where, month in, they'll have huge amounts of data that gets moved. In most models, it would look like it's an abnormal exfiltration event, but it's actually just a normal movement of data that occurs at that specific function. So all of those things have to be learned and fed into your models initially and over time. And it's a continuous learning loop. So AI is not going to be a set and forget it. And it's certainly not going to be something that you don't want to be doing a constant review and audit of the data that's there. Threat actors will also go and try to get into your AI systems and do data poisoning, introduce falses into your data sets, which could allow them to go and do an exploit on something that you're trying to prevent. So that's where it's important to make sure that you continuously have humans taking a look at those data sets as well. So I think that goes back to, and is a continuation of the previous question, where, like I said, I think that you need to start small and you need to allow time for the model to be able to work and be able to learn. And you also need to spend some time understanding your data sets, what's good, what's not good, and continuously refine the data that's coming in. So I don't think that they're inherently dangerous per se, as long as you continue to have the guardrails in place. Like I noted during the presentation, on really high risk systems, you want to make sure that you always have the human control that's there, instead of it just being 100% autonomous. Now, there are some systems that you could utilize 100% autonomy, and it makes sense, but for really high impact, always make sure that you've got a human. Well, like I said in the presentation, you just have to be building out your model. You have to be doing ingestion of those threat feeds. You need to be doing autonomous pen testing on your systems to understand where those choke points are, where your vulnerabilities are, and feeding that back into your model so that you can get better and better over time. That's really the only way that you can do that. There is no silver bullet. There is no magic to this. On the front end, there's a lot of hard work that's going to be involved to make sure that the model that you have in place is correct. And you're always going to have to be tuning. Again, it gets back to making sure that you have a baseline understanding of what's normal within your environment. So if it's normal for you to have the autonomous replication of data, you're going to know, number one, when those data movements occur. You're going to, over time, understand what the volume of those data look like, and so you can feed that into your system. That's going to help continue to tune that along. The self-healing piece of it, like I said, it's you need to start small and work your way up. I wouldn't go full on self-healing until you have had a chance for your model to be developed. You have better integration with more data. The more data, the better. So as many endpoint points that you can put into your data sets, the stronger everything's going to be. But like I said, you just need to start small and then work it up. You're going to find out what those bugs are and what the kinks in the systems are, but just start small and continuously do audits. Yeah, absolutely can. If you have the right tools in place and you have the right data models in place, it absolutely can do predictive and effective blocking of a lot of these emerging threats. 0 days used to be one of those things where it would strike fear into the heart of men. And if you have the right tools on the opposite side, then it's really nothing that you should be afraid of, because your system would have already figured out that was going to be a problem, and then it would have flagged that and alerted you to let you know that you have a problem that you need to get resolved, or if you take it to the next step, that it automatically resolves for you. So I think that emerging threats really come down to a lot of code failures or misconfiguration failures that people have within their environment. So doing that proactive and real-time AI-driven attack simulations on your environments is going to help lessen the number of those problems that you're going to see. And over time, it's going to get less and less of an issue. Don't be afraid of AI. Make sure that you have the right process in place to be able to, create an organization that is resilient and understands what the objective and the use of AI models are. And lastly, just make sure that you use AI in an ethical manner, and make sure that there's always humans that are involved every step of the way.